To my brothers and sisters out there, welcome back to my channel, Making Moves with Mike. In today's episode, I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about my calling, God's calling on me, and what I've learned so far. So, whenever I started actually doing what I feel like God has called me to do, it didn't come easy. I had to wind up using some discernment, and I wound up having to pay attention to what was going on in my life. Now, for those of you that know, I used to be an alcoholic, and I went through a lot of traumatic events in my life that had caused me to become an alcoholic. And I was that way for about 4 years. I'm going on 4 years sober now. And I've always felt like God had a calling on my life, but I never really understood what that looked like. So in the past year, God has kind of moved me to do speaking engagements. And then my heart felt compelled to put ministry on the side of the road to do free prayers for people that were either one, scared to go to church, two, have been burned by a church, or maybe they just wanted to have some privacy and have somebody pray over them. So I started that ministry on the side of the road. Now, it's amazing the things that you start learning as you start having self-development. For a long time, the devil kept me in my addictions. And the way that that happens is through here, your mind. You know, you want to get to a place where you think that you're not good enough, or you keep repeating the patterns in your mind of the mistakes that you made in your past. Now, the thing is when you become a new person, when you become a new creation, when you get baptized and you get saved and you become a new creation, you cannot bound yourself to your past and to the things that happened in the past. You become a new creature. And what that looks like for you may be different from each and every person that this happens to. However, having said that, whatever happened in the past, you cannot stay a prisoner to it, because if you're no longer the same person, you can't keep convicting an innocent person. So when I stepped into this, I'm not gonna lie to you, I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of negative thoughts that were going through my head, like, can God really use me? Do you know the stuff I've done in my past? Do you know who I used to be? And it was a lot of self-doubt. And a lot of the reasons why that was because the enemy was trying to distract me and to keep me bound in my past in a repeated cycle of self-destruction. Now, the amazing thing is when you get into that pattern of self-destruction, you don't really get attacked by the devil, because you're already doing the devil's job. You're attacking yourself. And you got to be vigilant. You got to be paying attention to your thoughts and to the things that you tell yourself. Now, we live in a very negative world and a very negative society where when we go out in public, people have things to say, or even if you go on the internet, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, because of, who this person has this person has that. You're not skinny enough. You're not tall enough. You're not. And it's a very negative world that we live in. There are standards that are set out there that are unrealistic, and what winds up happening is people try to reach these goals that are almost unrealistic, and when they don't do it, they get devastated. They become depressed. They have anxiety. They get to a point where they doubt themselves, and everything starts to crumble. Well, the reason why I'm bringing this to you guys' attention today is because I was that guy. I was a person that talked negative to myself based off of the things that I saw. And you got to understand that what you see is not always reality. Your perception of reality is the perception that you give yourself. How you view your life is how your life is going to continue to go in your direction. Now, so some of the things that I had to wind up learning how to equip myself with, and this is why I love God so much, is because God will teach you how to equip yourself with the necessary tools that you need to strive to be a better person, to strive to better yourself, to bring yourself out of sickness and addictions and things like that. Now, one of the things that I love about God, though, is God does acquire you with some tools. And one of the tools that I had was discernment. Whenever I gave everything to God, God started opening my eyes. I started seeing who was there for me and who was not there for me. I started seeing people's intentions rather than what they were saying. And to be honest with you, it's amazing how when you start paying attention to things, how things start to change. I always say that the truth is silent and lies are loud, and that's very true. That goes side and side with everything that goes on in life. You got to be able to pay attention to who's around you and what they bring to the table. Now, misery loves company. So when I was in my addictions, I had a lot of friends, needless to say. And at the time, I thought that these were friends, and these were not friends, because these were people that were indulging in the worldly things that were causing a lot of damage to my body. It made it seem like fun because we're out drinking and we're out having a good time, but the effects of what was happening to my body was not okay. And the people that I was around didn't care about that. They didn't care about it. They only cared about having a good time, including myself, because I was that guy. Needless to say, as you get older, now I'm suffering from, having anxiety. I'm suffering from having blood pressure problems, blood sugar problems. They said I was type 2 diabetic, what was it, 3 or 4 months ago, something like that. But anyhow, these are the effects that happen over time. And as I started getting myself to a godly place, I asked God to remove anything toxic. Now, what I will say is when you talk to God, when you ask God for things, be mindful, because some things may take a while, because everything's in God's timing. However, you got to be mindful of what you ask for, because when I asked God to remove the toxicity from my life, there were people that were removed that I never saw coming, who I thought were really there for me, who I thought had my back. These are my family, my brothers. This is it right here. They would never do me wrong. God sees and hears all. And so when you ask God to remove toxicity from your life, don't be surprised when God removes toxicity from your life. Now, the cool thing is whenever I went into my addiction, of course, it was a very dark time, a very black hole for me. And I remember asking God, why am I going through this? Why am I losing parents? Why am I an alcoholic? Why am I going through this? Now, one of the things God does, and I'm not saying God made me an alcoholic by no means, so don't take this the wrong way, but one of the things God does is isolate you. You have a separation to get ready for your preparation. Now, what was happening was whenever I became an alcoholic, I had eventually got to a point where I was all by myself. I had no friends, I had no family, I had nobody I could really call on, nothing. I was homeless a couple times, I was living in hotels for the most part, and I was at desperate times in my life where I really needed somebody, and the thought of not being here started to become more appetizing, for me, because I didn't feel like I had anybody. Now, what wound up happening was when I started getting those thoughts, because they came, later on in my addiction, I want to say the last year, the fourth year is whenever those thoughts of not being here was more prevalent than anything. Well, the amazing thing about God is I started hitting my knees and praying. I had a Bible and I started reading the Bible. I started hitting my knees and praying, and I realized that I was not going through this by myself. And I was begging God to please pull me out of this, because I was already missing a lot of things that were going on in my son's life. And of course, nobody is on top of you harder than yourself. So I was blaming myself for everything I was missing, and I would use that as an excuse to continue drinking. And then you see where the cycle goes? Yeah. So that's what was going on in my life. Now, the amazing thing is whenever I sought help, God provided every single thing I needed to get my life back together. I had to just make the move. Once I gave it to God, God gave me the opportunities. And, when He asked me to move, I moved. Now, the amazing thing is whenever I became sober, I was still isolated. And I couldn't understand why, because I'm like, I'm sober, everybody. Not paying attention to the fact that I just used 4 years of being an alcoholic. And I was ready to be forgiven. Like, okay, cool, let's do this. I'm not the same person. However, people around you, they only go by what they know. And what they knew was that Michael was an alcoholic. Well, they haven't learned to know Michael yet. The amazing thing is, though, is whenever I got myself together and I started getting sober, God pulled me away from everything, and God wound up setting me into a place away from everybody and everything. And He brought me to a light that I've never seen before. He brought me to a place where I realized that I was an alcoholic, because it gave me the opportunity, now that I'm sober, to be able to speak to people with addiction problems. I had lost family members, but it also gives me the opportunity to save people who are losing people. What God was doing in my life was He was prepping me for the things that were coming in the future. Of course, at that point in time, I had no idea, but God was a very patient God. God allowed me to figure it out on my own. Whenever I became an alcoholic, the reason why I hit my knees and prayed to God is because God allowed me to get to a point in my life where I was so broken and destroyed that I had to come to him and talk to him because I never did it before. And the amazing thing is whenever I did that, I had a relationship with the Father. And despite all the things that I've been through, he had wound up saving me from everything. Now, he took me away from everything and everybody. And the amazing thing was, I was working one day and I realized by talking to a group of people that I had a higher calling than what my job was. And it was amazing because at that point in time, I was like, am I even ready to do this? Can I do this? And I had no idea at that point in time. I can't say that I jumped in there all confident, like, oh, I got this. I'm a great guy. No. I asked God, I was like, am I ready for this? Can I even do this? And it was amazing because God started setting up doors, right? And people in my path. I wound up getting to a point where I started praying over people. And I had a vision one night, and God told me in a vision that I needed to use the computer, which at that moment in time when I had the dream or the vision, I didn't really quite understand what it meant. However, I started praying over people and I started doing prayer videos and Bible verse videos. And it is amazing because I've had the opportunity to reach people that were suicidal, that were going through things in their life, that were facing giants that they couldn't get past. And my videos were things that they were holding on to, and that's absolutely amazing because it's nothing but God. I'm just a vessel. But the fact that God was able to use me to be able to do that, and the funny thing is whenever you call upon God and you're wanting to better yourself and do something of a higher purpose, God will allow it. Now, sometimes it doesn't seem very clear, but I feel like things are led in our hearts and I feel like things are led in our spirit that kind of give us ideas that we never thought of before. Case in point, my ministry that I put on the side of the road, the free prayers. It's been amazing. We've been able to pray over 80 people. I've had people pull up that were so broken they couldn't even get out of the car. I'm able to reach in there, put my hands on them, and cry with them. I've cried with a couple people. The amazing thing is it sets the example for people around you as well. I've had people come up and I've had people bless us. I've had people give me Bibles so that I can hand Bibles out to people and things like that. When I started doing that, when I started praying over somebody else that was broken, something in me changed. And I realized this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to serve God. I want to be able to save people and protect people and let people realize it's not over. We all make mistakes. We're human. That's what makes us human. And even if you made mistakes and it's taken a couple of years, okay, that's fine. You're human. Some of the addicts that I've met in my time were the biggest hearted people, including myself. And the addictions were a way, at least I felt like it was a way to escape from reality and not have to be an evil person and go after each and every person that has ever done me wrong or ever hurt my feelings or anything like that. So I felt like it was a way to get away. But I'm here to tell you that you can't escape it. The things that have happened in your life, you have to face them at some point in time. Your addiction will only put these things off. And then when they come back, they're going to be stronger than they were before. I'm not going to lie. Whenever I became sober, it took me over a year to really get this right. Once I got this right, then I was able to start being able to reconstruct my life, get my relationship back with my son, get my relationship back with people that meant a lot to me. And then eventually what wound up happening was the more I became self-aware, the more I became self-healing, God started using me for bigger purposes. And it's amazing because God can use you despite what you've been through. So you can't say, well, I've done drugs and I've done this and I've cheated and it happens. If you look through the Bible, the people that God used were people that were broken, that were going through things in life and that had done things in life. And I believe that things happen in life and God allows certain things to happen in life because I believe that those are the reasons that make people humble. Had I not went through the things I went through, I wouldn't have the understanding that I have today. And had I not experienced the things that I've experienced, then I would not have had the opportunity to be humble from these experiences. I've had highs, I've had lows, I've had things great, and I've had things that haven't completely destroyed me. But it's by the grace of God that I was saved, and then I was not only saved, but being able to be used as a vessel to reach other people that are broken. And I'm gonna tell you, whether you're going through addiction now, or whether you have somebody in your family or loved one, anybody that's going through addiction, you have to be patient with this person. People do change. People do recover. Not everybody. The thing is for somebody to want, or for somebody to come out of addiction, or somebody to want to be better, they have to come to a realization that this is what they want to do. Otherwise, you are going to be wasting your time. Now, I will say that I believe in the power of prayer. So if you're doing things on your own and it's not working out for you, or you're trying to do things for other people and it doesn't seem to be working out, I suggest that you hit your knees and pray. God can do things that we cannot do. I've tried to quit my addiction. I can't tell you how many times I've relapsed before I actually became clean. And it was because I gave it to God. And not only did I give it to him, but I put my pride to the side. I became vulnerable and I gave it to him and I let him keep it. For a long time prior to that moment, I would give it to God and I would take it back. And that's pride. I was impatient. I wanted it in my time and how it was supposed to be. But there were things that I was supposed to see that I hadn't seen yet. God allowed me to see certain things to allow me to come out of that. And when I came out of that, not only did I come out of that, but because of the things that I've seen and the things I've experienced, I've never had a desire to go back to it. And that's because of God. And I always lean on God whenever I have something like that I feel is not beneficial for me and I can't, do anything about it. I'll turn to God. And God has removed every single thing that I've ever asked him to do. Keep in mind, not everything happens on your time. So if you're praying for something and then it doesn't happen within the first couple of days, don't quit praying. Keep praying. Prayers, petition, consistency, those are the things that got me to where I'm at today. And I'm going to be honest with you, when you get to a place of self-healing and you get to a place where God starts to use you, I can't even explain to you how amazing it is when somebody comes to you that they don't know and they cry. And you give them something from God that saves them, that lets them realize how important they are, that keeps them on this earth without taking their own life. It's amazing when you get those opportunities. This was something that I realized that I was called to do. This is something I enjoy doing every single day. And I want to do this for the rest of my life. And it took a lot to get here. It really did. It's not easy, but it's not as hard as you think it is either. So having said that, I've had a lot of help. I've had a lot of support, but God had to remove me from all the people, places, and things that I was familiar with to get me to the point that I'm at now, to have the support that I currently have right now. And I encourage you that whatever it is that you're going through, please hit your knees and pray. Give it to the Father, because I'm telling you, he does things that is out of our control. And at the end of the day, the real question is, what can you control? And if you can't control it, then how do you react to it? With that being said, I hope you guys have a beautiful and blessed day. Thank you for joining me. All right.